resources are going to be there in order to be able to enforce and protect. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Statements by members. Déclaration de député. Before I go on, there will be 3 minutes and 30 seconds remaining in questions and comments for the Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Government House Leader's speech when the House next resumes on this topic. Statements by members. The Honourable Member for Hamilton West and Castor Dundas.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to congratulate all our Canadian athletes who are participating in the Olympics. And I am so proud that we have 3 Hamiltonians representing us: Laura Fortino, Sarah Nurse, and Nick Polianato. Nick was a standout football player and he suffered a broken leg, but he didn't let that crush his love for sport. He found the bobsled. And then there's Sarah Nurse. Sarah, at the age of 5, dreamed of playing on the Canadian women's hockey team, and today that dream is realized. And then we have Laura Fortino. Laura Fortino's discipline, commitment is second to none. She is a true role model for all, and we will never forget the 2014 Sochi Games when she assisted in that overtime goal that brought home the gold for the Canadian women's hockey team. Mr. Speaker, I want to congratulate all athletes and their families on a job very well done. We're going to be cheering you on from here. Go Canada, go!
The Honourable Member for Medicine Hat, Cardston Warner.
Mr. Speaker, it is my privilege to highlight the vigorous leadership of the community of Medicine Hat on helping those in need. Thrive is a Medicine Hat and region strategy to end poverty, increase well-being by 2030. Together as a community, we are building access to resources and services to assist those in need with such things as food and income security, transportation access, and housing. As evidenced by our community's approach on ending homelessness, Medicine Hat is known for using innovation to address social issues. For example, Thrive launched Help Seeker, an app that is dedicated to connecting those in need with services near them in real time. Thrive is bringing the community together by removing barriers to access services that will not only lift people out of poverty, but will prevent them from falling into it in the first place. And the best part, Mr. Speaker, there is no values test required for this program, as anyone in need qualifies. I salute our great community leaders whose hard work brought Thrive into focus to ensure that everyone in Southern Alberta is better off by addressing poverty and increasing well-being. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Dorval-Lachine-LaSalle.
I would like to express my feelings regarding a woman who inspired me to be strong and never let adversity hold me back.
A month ago, I lost a loved one. My grandmother, Bibi Nassif-Kar, born in 1919, passed away. In May, she would have turned 99. I'd like to honor her memory here with my colleagues because one of her proudest moments was when I was elected to this place. She couldn't believe it. She was born and grew up at a time when women couldn't work outside the home, much less become members of Parliament.
Still see people born in this year, but Bibi Nassif-Kar was a very, very strong woman, both mentally and physically. She lived through very difficult times. She saw the world change, but no matter what she had to face, she remained unwavering. She was afraid of no one and refused to be intimidated. She would not let herself get pushed around, and she would not be taught how to think or act. Especially today, when women are carving the way for equality, she was inspirational. I will miss my Bibi. Thank you.
One member for Vancouver East.
Canada's rich multicultural mosaic has brought us vibrant cultural celebrations from every corner of the globe. In the world today, over 1.5 billion people celebrate the Lunar New Year. 2018 is the year of the dog. With the faces of the world spread across Canada, many Canadians are celebrating the Lunar New Year with colorful cultural performances, meaningful practices, and delicious food in their own communities. I was delighted to attend a number of fabulous Lunar New Year events in Metro Toronto. The leader of the NDP, Jagmeet Singh, also joined in the celebration. In Vancouver East on February 18th, community leaders have organized the 45th annual Vancouver Chinatown Spring Festival Parade that will feature traditional lion dancing, multicultural dance troupes, marching bands, martial art performances, and Indigenous drummers. Together, let us all celebrate our families, our heritage, and our diversity. 恭喜發財，恭喜恭喜。
That's all. The Honourable Member for Sudbury.
Mr. Speaker, February 10th, 2018 marks the 55th anniversary of the terrible tragedy that happened in a community not too far from my hometown of Kapuskasing called resource siting. 11 union workers were shot during the resource siting strike of 1963, and 3 of them lost their lives during a confrontation that happened that very night.
The resource siding strike of 1963 was one of the most significant and tragic labor disputes in Canadian history. The strike by bush and sawmill workers at the Spruce Falls Power and Paper Company divided the local communities.
To learn more about the strike, but mostly, I invite my colleagues to remember the tragedy that happened and to remember Fernand Drouin et les frères Irénée et Joseph Fortier, who lost their lives while fighting for better working conditions. Mr. Speaker, even after half a century, it is regrettable that health and safety in some workplaces in Canada remains an aspiration rather than a reality. Merci, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Richmond Centre.
Mr. Speaker, it is with great pleasure and honor that I extend greetings to my House colleagues and Canadians from coast to coast on the occasion of the Lunar New Year at the end of this week. It is the tradition of Canadians with Chinese, Korean, and Vietnamese heritage to celebrate this wondrous occasion, and then invite all Canadians to celebrate together. This Lunar New Year is the year of the dog, an animal that is renowned for its loyalty, honesty, and justness, qualities that I strive to achieve every day in representing the people of Richmond Centre. I encourage all members of this House to reflect upon those very important traits of the dog in the service of their communities and their constituents in the year ahead. On behalf of my beautiful riding of Richmond Centre, I wish each and every Canadian a happy Lunar New Year. 恭喜發財.
The honourable member for Don Valley West.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Black History Month provides members of Parliament with an opportunity to thank some of our most remarkable community leaders. People like Pat Moore. Pat has been helping people in Thorncliffe Park and Flemington Park communities for decades. People in my riding know that Pat has been a tireless supporter of women, children, and youth services. She's been a staunch advocate for programming for women who have experienced physical and emotional abuse, and has been a leader in the efforts to financially empower women. Pat also remains a key leader in the cooperative housing movement in Toronto. She's Vice President of the Thorncliffe Park Tenants Association, advocating for residents. And for more than 30 years, she's worked with TNO, the neighbourhood office in Thorncliffe Park. Of course, there are days when I see her coming, I get a little nervous, knowing she'll have work for me to do, but she always stands out as a figure whose commitment and dedication to our community are worthy of championing during Black History Month. Thank you, Pat, for all you've done and all you continue to contribute to Don Valley West.
The honourable member for Yukon.
It is with great sadness that I rise to pay tribute to the passing of Yukon elder Doris McLean, who was a great mentor to me when I was president of Skookum Friendship Centre. McLean was a pioneer in Indigenous self-government and the revitalization of First Nation language and culture. As chief of the Carcross Tagus First Nation from 1988 to 1992, she helped finalize the Yukon's Umbrella Final Agreement, modern treaty in 1990, giving her people self-government. In the 1970s, she established the Skookum Quiche Tlingit Dancers, which would eventually evolve into the nationally celebrated Dakwakan Dancers. She would serve as the group's founding elder, and her daughter Marilyn Jensen is one of its most prominent members. Throughout her career of service, she would also serve as the first Canadian female Indigenous Sergeant-at-Arms for the Yukon's Legislative Assembly. Doris McLean's wisdom, storytelling, and sense of humor will be missed by us all. Goodness cheese.
The honourable member for Langley Aldergrove.
Mr. Speaker, constituents in my riding were shocked that the Prime Minister bullied them. Bullied in organizations and businesses that use Canada Summer Jobs funding to hire Canadian students. He told funding applicants that they had to sign his new attestation form, confirming that their core values are his core values. The Prime Minister's decision to force this values test on Canadians is inappropriate and wrong. It's an attack on our Charter of Rights and Freedoms, and it's already hurting Canadian communities. Roughly half of the applicants in my riding of Langley Aldergrove were impacted by this heavy-handed decision. This summer, students won't get the jobs that they were counting on to help pay for their tuitions. The homeless won't get the help that they need. The disabled and seniors won't get the help they need. The environment won't get the help it needs. This new values test is hurting Canada. The Prime Minister needs to apologize and stop his intolerant discrimination.
The honourable member for Sydney Victoria.
Mr. Speaker, in my riding, fishing is one of our most important industries. Our tasty cold fish, cold water fish, can be found on plates of happy consumers around the world. Cape Breton's fishing communities are very happy with the trade agreements our government is working hard on to reduce duties on our international fish exports, making these products more affordable to all and putting more money in our fishers' pockets. Another good news story for our fisheries I'd like to state in this House is the recent announcement by the Minister of Fisheries, Oceans and Coast Guard, who made this last week in Vancouver. Mr. Speaker, the Minister's amendments to the Fisheries Act protects our most valuable fish habitats, has more Indigenous involvement, and most importantly maintains the fabric of our communities by keeping the fishing enterprises family-owned and operated. I'd like to welcome the fisheries representatives from the Atlantic region and Gaspé area to Ottawa today, including John Couture of Cape Breton and his delegation, to discuss these positive changes to this very important industry.
Hear, hear.
The honourable member for Lac Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, the Saint Jean crossing goes from for 1 week in February, and this brings a lot of my constituents and tourists to discover the winter beauty of the Lac Saint-Jean area. There's a 32-kilometer path on the frozen lake. This is very important to the local economy, and I'd like to thank all those who worked indirectly or directly on the organization of the event, and I wish good luck to the adventurers who come from around the world to take part in this unique expedition. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for York Simcoe.
We lost former Ontario MPP Chris Stockwell. Stockwell was always feisty, colourful and determined. As a municipal councillor in Etobicoke, as a progressive Conservative MPP, as a provincial cabinet minister, Chris Stockwell was truly one of a kind. He even did a stint as Speaker of the Legislative Assembly of Ontario in what some saw as a somewhat ironic turn, but of course it meant that the workload for the Speaker was a little bit lighter. He was a maverick and a rebel. Throughout his career in serving the public, Stockwell's fierce independence was on full display, and he became well known for his penchant for performance and irreverent sense of humor. Chris was a personality. His booming voice and character filled any room. You always knew if Chris was there. Stockwell always believed in speaking his mind and fighting for what he believed. For this, he garnered the respect of friends and opponents alike. His contribution to our province will be long remembered, as will his fierce determination and character.
The honourable member for Surrey Newton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. For over 50 years, the Arts Council of Surrey has given local artists a platform and opportunity to showcase their skills and abilities. At my constituency office in Surrey Newton, I am proud to display amazing drawings and paintings of local residents. Their talent and commitment in promoting culture represents Surrey at its best, and I am proud to showcase their work to hundreds of constituents that visit my office every week. Thank you to the Arts Council of Surrey for continuing to promote literary, visual and performing arts in our community of Surrey.
Good job. Honourable member for Cowichan, Malahat, Langford.
Today, as it has been for our entire existence, the common denominator amongst humankind is our collective need to eat. Thousands of years ago, the agricultural revolution fundamentally transformed our species. Gone was the need for us to roam and to hunt and gather our resources in order to ensure our survival. We finally developed the ability to grow our own food in one place, which allowed us to start to develop complex societies, cultures, and civilizations. I want to stand here today as the newly minted NDP critic for agriculture to offer my sincere thanks and appreciation for the patience, determination, and hard work of the men and women who grow our food and make our society possible. Let's highlight the remarkable work our farmers, who on a daily basis provide us with fresh, local, and good quality products from the farm to the table. On behalf of the entire NDP caucus, I wish you a happy Agriculture Day.
The honourable member for Niagara Falls.
Mr. Speaker, recently I held a roundtable in my riding of Niagara Falls to dialogue with community leaders how we can work together to combat human trafficking. My colleague, the former MP Joy Smith, has done much to raise awareness of this tragic issue and will be appearing before the Justice Committee in March as we prepare to study human trafficking in Canada. Among the initiatives that she has developed is a documentary called Human Trafficking, Canada's Secret Shame. The documentary is used as a tool to educate young girls on how traffickers use mediums such as social media to lure young people into the sex trafficking trade. If you have a daughter, granddaughter, or niece, she is at risk of being trafficked. These evil predators prey upon girls whose average recruitment age is 13. Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased that the Justice Committee is determined to shine a light on this terrible crime and hopefully in the process help to keep Canadian girls and women safe.
The honourable member for Quebec-Mactaquac.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to recognize February the 13th as Canada's Agricultural Day. As chair of the All-Party Agricultural Caucus, I hosted a breakfast with industry leaders this morning along with my colleagues and co-chairs, Larry Miller and Bridget Sanssouci. We would like to recognize the great work being done around excellence in agricultural innovation and all those who contribute to the future of agriculture and agri-food sectors, including artificial intelligence and robotics. The opportunities for Canada's farmers and food processors on the global stage are nothing short of breathtaking. The UN and Agricultural Organization has projected that global demand for food is projected to increase by 60% by 2050. I would like to reiterate Canada's message about the need to invest in innovation to help feed a growing population while protecting the environment. Today, 5% of the population feeds 95% of those who do not produce food. There's no question that innovation will play a critical role in helping the sector meet these demands, and I would like to extend an invitation to all my colleagues on both sides of the House to come to 525 180 Wellington to sign my "How Long Have You Been Farming" poster. Lastly, if you ate today, take 5 minutes and thank a farmer.
Alors,
Order.
questions orales.
Oral questions.
The member for Milton.
Mr. Speaker, the Trans Mountain Pipeline Project is an important project with $7.4 billion in investment and 37,000 good-paying Canadian jobs. There's much opposition to this project. In fact, they are saying that they're going to interrupt it and delay, and the government is silent throughout this whole time. And what's the impact of that? Well, industry is watching closely. And as well, there's a growing crisis among our provinces. Will the Prime Minister stand up for Canadians relying on these jobs, bring certainty, and unveil his plan to allow construction to start this spring?
The right honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we have always said that we will make sure that the environment and the economy go together. Unlike what the previous government did, we have taken action exactly on that. We've moved forward on a national plan to reduce carbon emissions. We've moved forward on historic oceans protections, and we're moving forward on projects like the Kinder Morgan pipeline that will get our resources to new markets safely and securely. That's what Canadians expect. That's why I've been across the country speaking with premiers, speaking with Canadians, hearing from both sides of the argument and remaining steadfast. The Kinder Morgan pipeline will be built.
The honourable member for Milton.
So, Mr. Speaker, unfortunately, these are just words and platitudes that the government is utilizing because right now, as we speak, industry is responding to the uncertainty and instability that their lack of action is causing. Kinder Morgan has already indicated that they're going to be delaying and slowing their investments on the pipeline. And indeed, the message to the world, Mr. Speaker, is that Canada is not open for business. He can make these concerns go away by showing a little bit of leadership. It's simple. When will he guarantee the construction of the pipeline in Burnaby?
Right honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I find it humorous that the members opposite are talking about showing leadership. For 10 years, they didn't get anything built. And when they approved the Northern Gateway pipeline, which wasn't a very good pipeline, but when they approved it, they did it by press release in the middle of the night. When we approved the Kinder Morgan pipeline, I stood at a press conference, announced it myself, and then crossed the country, taking responsibility for it and demonstrating that it is in that national interest. For 10 years, they had a failed process that couldn't get things built. We know that by restoring public trust, by protecting the environment, we can grow the economy.
Excellent. Order. The honourable member for Milton.
Mr. Speaker, there's a lot of heat and light in the Prime Minister's kind words, but the reality is that he's not getting anything done. Let's take a little bit of a review. 5 months ago, they botched the Energy East pipeline, and that was 14,000 jobs on a $15 billion project. Now we've got another crisis, another 37,000 jobs. Clearly, he doesn't actually feel moved by industry's concerns. Maybe he's going to be moved by the fact that's 50,000 jobs. Mr. Speaker, seriously, how many more well-paying Canadian jobs do we need to put in jeopardy to get him moving?
The right honourable Prime Minister.
Again, Mr. Speaker, for 10 years, they talked up the energy industry, but actually couldn't deliver for it. What was I doing? I went down to Washington, D.C. to make the pitch for Keystone XL to a group of American Democrats. That's what I was doing while I was leader of the third party. I have continued to focus on delivering it. I have focused on making sure we protect the environment and grow the economy together. That's exactly what we are doing, and that's why they keep talking down our chances of getting that pipeline built. We will get it built.
Order. Order. I'd ask colleagues, order. Order. I'd ask colleagues to remember that each side gets their turn, and we wait for our side. In each case, we don't interrupt.
The honourable member for Richmond Arthabaska. Mr. Speaker, the Trans Mountain Project will create tens of thousands of jobs and benefit the entire country, but the Prime Minister has to deal with it instead of letting the conflict deteriorate as he is now. We're talking about thousands of jobs at risk because of the lack of leadership of the Prime Minister. This is in addition to the loss of a contract worth hundreds of millions in Mirabel last week, and the renegotiation of NAFTA, which is at a standstill. Can the Prime Minister tell Canadians what he plans to do to solve the problem between Alberta and British Columbia? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, I was very clear. We are going to get the pipeline built. We know that it is in the interest of the entire country. We know that there are people in British Columbia who are opposed to those pipelines. And I tell them we will still get the pipeline built. But to hear the Conservatives from Alberta suggest that this pipeline won't be delivered is to devalue and to introduce uncertainty this process. We repeat, we will get that pipeline built. The honourable member for Richmond Arthabaska. I just want to remind the Prime Minister that I am a proud Conservative from Quebec, in case he didn't know, although I do have good friends in Alberta. Does the Prime Minister recognize the urgency of the situation? Does he recognize the importance of the natural resources industry for our economy in the country? Is the Prime Minister aware that thousands of jobs are at risk? The question is simple. We don't need words. We need to know what the Prime Minister is planning to do to solve the crisis between Alberta and British Columbia. The Right Honourable Prime Minister. The members on the other side want to know what we're going to do. We're going to get the pipeline built. The honourable member for Rimouski, Neigette, Témiscouata, Les Basques. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister told us yesterday that the Canada Revenue Agency will finally share its data with the Parliamentary Budget Officer after a 62-month wait. I'll wait for the details before I rejoice, but this agreement does not resolve the real problem, the agency's refusal to be transparent and accountable. The agency acts as though it were not at all accountable to Parliament. Taxpayers' privacy must be protected, but when the agency's officials take advantage of the law to protect parliamentarians over taxpayers, there is a bigger problem. When will the Liberals demand that the agency be accountable to Parliament? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, we understand the importance of the reliability and exactitude of the data provided to the Parliamentary Budget Officer. That is why we have reinforced the PBO's duties, and we have made this person an officer of Parliament after the Conservatives spent years questioning his credibility. When it comes to the data held by the CRA, an agreement has been concluded with the PBO, and the data will be provided in such a way as to ensure the protection of Canadians' privacy, and it will be done by the end of the month. We will continue to support the work of officers of Parliament. The Honourable Member for Rimouski-Neja-Témiscouata-Lévesque. The lack of accountability of the CRA is an issue.
The same way the previous government did, not only in protecting the unaccountable Canada Revenue Agency, but also in withholding information on tax havens. Canada just signed 2 new tax treaties with Antigua, Barbuda, and Grenada. And what does tax treaties do? Well, it allows corporations to set up subsidiaries in those low-tax countries where their worldwide profits will be attributed, and they will bring back those profits in Canada tax-free. Why are Liberals continuing to sign those tax-avoiding agreements?
Right, Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, as Canadians expect, we are moving forward to combat tax evasion and tax avoidance. We put close to $1 billion in our first 2 budgets towards the Canada Revenue Agency to ensure that everyone pays their fair share of taxes. So that's exactly what we're continuing to do. We will continue to make sure that everyone pays their fair share of taxes. That's what Canadians expect of us.
Honourable Member for New Westminster Burnaby.
And he's still signing agreements with tax havens. That's the reality. The Prime Minister can act now on certain matters. More than $3 billion are lost in tax loopholes like stock options deductions. More than $10 billion in taxes go to tax havens. While people lack housing and medicine, and many First Nations communities lack clean drinking water. It's a matter of choices. Is the Prime Minister going to act on these unfair loopholes? The Right Honourable Prime Minister, I would be delighted to be able to use the member's question to talk about what we are doing when it comes to social housing. We're investing $40 billion with the provinces into affordable housing throughout the entire country. This is a historic investment. We've never seen this level of investment before. We're investing in Indigenous communities in order to reduce boil water advisories. And we are investing in the communities who need it to help the middle class, and by providing the Canada Child Benefit. We will continue to invest in those that need it. The Honourable Member for New Westminster Burnaby.
So much inequality in this country as under this Prime Minister's watch. And the truth is, this Prime Minister simply does not know how to say no to wealthy Canadians who want to escape taxes by taking their money overseas. That hurts Canadians. Canadians who can't pay for medication. Canadians who are on the streets because there is so little affordable housing. Indigenous communities that have no drinking water. Why doesn't the Prime Minister take action on tax havens so Canadians can have pharmacare, affordable housing, and safe drinking water?
Right, Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, as I said, we have and will continue to take action on tax avoidance and tax evasion. But it's nice that the members opposite are bringing up pharmacare, because we recognize on this side of the House that Canadians pay too much for prescription drugs, and our government is taking bold action now to bring down prices. We joined the provinces and territories as a member of the Pan-Canadian Pharmaceutical Alliance, which negotiates lower drug prices on behalf of public drug plans. Through Budget 2017, we're investing over $140 million to help improve access to pharmaceuticals and to support innovations within the healthcare system. We're going to continue to ensure that Canadians can better afford
the Honourable Order. The Honourable Member for Lakeland.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister just keeps saying the pipeline will be built. I guess by magic, since Kinder Morgan says it's slowing down its operations, slowing down spending, and delaying it for more than a year. More delays continue to threaten this project every single day. The application was first filed over 2,000 days ago. The pipeline, clearly in national interest, was approved over 440 days ago, and these delays continue to pile up and pile up. It's just words and no action. Where is the plan? Table it on Thursday, and how many more days will it be before construction begins in Burnaby?
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Speaker, the British Columbia government says it's going to consult people. The government of Canada has already consulted tens of thousands of people, and Canadians agree with us that this pipeline is in Canada's interest because of the jobs it creates, because of the expansion of export markets, because the $1.5 billion invested in a world-class ocean protection plan. We have intervened with the proponent at the National Energy Board when we thought it would lead to delays. There will be no unnecessary delays. This pipeline will be built.
The honourable member for Lakeland.
It doesn't matter if he just keeps saying the same thing over and over and over. It's not actually planned. It's not actually going to get done, and it means absolutely nothing. They obviously won't stand up for their own approval of a pipeline clearly in the national interest.
And
so
now they're laughing.
the minister is saying that the recent consultations are legitimate and nothing to be seen here, but they're clearly an attempt to continue to delay the project. So deliver the plan and confirm. When will construction on the Trans Mountain Pipeline begin?
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, we don't have any difficulty repeating the government's position, and I don't know why members opposite can't take yes for an answer. Yes, we think the pipeline is a good idea. Yes, we approved the pipeline. Yes, we intervened at the National Energy Board when they wanted to delay the pipeline. We want the pipeline built. How about members of the opposition? What chill are they putting on investment by their incessant questioning?
Order. 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 The honourable member for Carleton will come to order. 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 The member for Halliburton, Kawartha Lakes, Brock.
Speaker, all words from the minister and still no action plan. The trade war between BC and Alberta is escalating every day. While this crisis develops, our Prime Minister crosses his fingers and hopes the provinces will just work it out instead of having to demonstrate any real national leadership himself. Wishful thinking will not get this pipeline built, Speaker. It's been 441 days since this project has been approved. When will this Prime Minister open his eyes and start supporting hard-working Canadian families that are depending on this project?
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, we live in a federation where provincial governments have strong points of view, and they are elected to speak on behalf of their own constituencies, the people who elected them, and their own interpretation of their provincial interest. There's only one government that speaks on behalf of the national interest, and that is the Government of Canada. And we acted in the national interest when we approved this pipeline. And in those months that have intervened, nothing has changed.
The honourable member for Halliburton, Kawartha Lakes, Brock.
Mr. Speaker, the Trans Mountain Expansion Project is in the national interest. It will create jobs across the country and provide provinces with access to global markets. The dispute between Alberta and British Columbia has escalated solely because this Prime Minister has failed to show any leadership, choosing instead to leave the country while this crisis came to a head. Every day of inaction by the Liberals fuels the national conflict. When will the Prime Minister shelve the rhetoric, get Alberta and BC together, and set a date for construction to begin?
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Let's examine the Conservative record on this file. In 10 years, not 1 kilometre of pipe built to Tidewater. An erosion of public trust in the regulatory system that we are going to fix. Insufficient consultation with Indigenous communities. Court case after court case that said they blew it. We're going to get it right.
Order. The member for Barrie Innes, Phil and others, I think know the standing orders. I know that we're not permitted to interrupt in this place, and I know that members can manage to hold themselves until it's the side of their turn. Their side's turn, excuse me. The honourable member for Chilliwack, Hope.
Thousands of jobs across the country are being put at risk because the Prime Minister is sitting on the sidelines while an approved energy project faces uncertainty and delay. He refuses to stand up to the opponents of the Trans Mountain Pipeline, and now the BC wine industry is becoming collateral damage as a result. We need less talk and more action from this Prime Minister. So will he tell Canadians what his actual plan is, or is his real plan to let others kill this project and the thousands of jobs that go along with it?
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, they're bashing in an open door. They can't take yes for an answer. I guess we can say it one more time. We want the pipeline to proceed. We've approved it. We've approved it with conditions. We're investing $1.5 billion in the Ocean Protection Plan. We're working with Indigenous communities up and down the line. And what is the opposition doing? Chilling investor confidence with a record that they should be ashamed of.
Order. I'm sure the opposition House Leader has read the standing orders. She knows we're not to interrupt in this place. I'll remember for Chilliwack Hope.
Energy workers, the BC wine industry, and national unity are all being threatened by this escalating dispute. Yet the Prime Minister actually said, quote, I'm not going to opine on disagreements between the provinces in this case. What a sorry excuse for national leadership. Why doesn't the Prime Minister opine that the rule of law will be upheld? Why doesn't he opine that innocent bystanders won't be collateral damage in this dispute? Why doesn't he get off the sidelines and fight for the jobs that will be lost because of his inaction?
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
You know, the Prime Minister says it in Edmonton. We say it in Vancouver. We say it in Regina. We say it in St. John's, Newfoundland. We say it in every region of the country. Why do we say it in every region of the country? Because the message is a national one, and it's clear. We will move our resources to market sustainably. We will expand export markets. We will work with Indigenous peoples. We will protect the environment. We are the only party in this chamber that will do all three of those things.
The Honourable Member for Berthier-Masquinongé. Mr. Speaker, today is Canada's Agriculture Day, and to highlight the occasion, the Liberals refused to setting up a trust like the American PACA program for perishables. And there is still not a bit of support for dairy producers in the wake of gaps opened by CETA. And that's not including future breaches under NAFTA or the Trans-Pacific Partnership. They should be ashamed of themselves today. When will this government keep its electoral promises for our family farms and set up protections so that people who feed our families every day can also feed their own?
Merci, Mr. President, and I certainly appreciate my honourable colleague's question. The fact is, we're the government, as I said many times. We're the party that implemented supply management, and we're the government that's going to protect it. And we're going to put programs in place in order to make sure that our fruit and vegetable sector are also in a shape to export around the world. We also put a program in place after CETA to make sure that the dairy industry itself was on the cutting edge, $250 million. We put another $100 million in place to make sure the processing sector was in place. We have and will continue to support.
The Honourable Member for Cowichan, Malahat, Langford.
For a party that says it likes to stand with farmers, its talking points are sure falling short. Mr. Speaker, creating a PACA-like deemed trust for producers of perishable goods in Canada is what our produce growers want. Two parliamentary committees, Agriculture and Finance, unanimously recommended that greater measures are needed to protect Canadian produce growers, but Liberal ministers won't even consider it. So on Canada's Agriculture Day, will the government stop breaking its election promises, put the money where its mouth is, and support our produce growers and small businesses?
Honourable Minister of Agriculture.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I again appreciate my honourable colleague's question. And on the issue, I can assure my honourable colleague the government is committed to the financial success of our fruit and vegetable farmers. We will be creating a single dispute resolution body which should resolve the majority of non-payment incidents faced by our producers. And of course, working with farmers, we today are going to make a number of announcements that will indicate just how much more we fully support the agriculture and agri-food sector across this country. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for Abbotsford.
Well, the more we dig into the new environmental review process, the uglier it gets. The Minister appears to have embedded in the bill provisions which empower her to delay, suspend and veto a project before it ever undergoes a full science-based review. Now, that's not a streamlined process. That's a minister knows best process that is based on politics, not science. How can we trust a process based on the minister's whims. Will the minister now agree to remove her veto power from the bill?
Yes. Honourable Minister of Environment.
Mr. Speaker, it's extraordinarily rich to hear the government opposite, the party opposite talk about science. They never, ever took into account science or Indigenous knowledge. They never listened to Canadians. They never respected rights of Indigenous peoples, and they couldn't get good projects built. We understand that the environment and the economy go together, that decisions need to be made on science and Indigenous knowledge, and that we need good projects to go ahead. That's exactly what we are doing.
Honourable Member for Abbotsford.
Be the government. Yeah. The minister spends more time slinging partisan mud and personal attacks than improving Canada's environment. And our Liberal government has broken more economic promises than we can count. They killed Northern Gateway, Energy East. They're letting Kinder Morgan die a slow and painful death. Now they're creating an environmental review process that is filled with more uncertainty than ever before, discouraging investment in Canada. When will the minister finally stop her partisan attacks and rebuild investor confidence in Canada's resource sector?
Honourable Minister of Environment.
I certainly encourage the party opposite to stop the partisan attacks. We understand the environment and the economy go together. We also have created over 500,000 jobs. We have the lowest unemployment rate since we've been tracking unemployment rates. We also are tackling climate change. We're committed to reconciliation with Indigenous peoples. We make decisions on science. We protect our animals, our waters, our air. Environment and the economy come to go together. Why doesn't the party opposite come to the party?
Here. Alors.
Order. The Honourable Member for Montmagny-Lillet, Kamouraska, Rivière-du-Loup. Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives implemented a rigorous environmental assessment system that allowed Canada to meet its economic and energy needs, while ensuring that approvals were science-based. With C-69, the Liberals are trying to turn upside down a process that worked very well. Can the minister tell us which projects approved under the old system that she takes exception to, and which projects does she want to see fail? The Honourable Minister for the Environment. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I know that our party makes science-based decisions. The party opposite made decisions based on science fiction. We are making sure that projects go forward. We have to make science-based decisions. We have to listen to Canadians. We have to work in partnership with Indigenous peoples. Otherwise, projects will not move forward. We know that the environment and the economy go together. I hope that one day the party opposite will understand that.
Trail Eagle Creek.
Mr. Speaker, the changes to the Navigation Protection Act proposed by the minister will delay and increase red tape and costs for rural municipalities building vital infrastructure. The Liberals' changes also reflect their lack of understanding of the importance of resource development to Canada's economy. Why are the Liberals opposing responsible resource development and delaying vital infrastructure projects in rural communities across Canada?
The Honourable Minister of Transport.
Mr. Speaker, we are very proud of the changes that we have made to the Canadian Navigable Waters Act, an act that had been gutted by the previous government, an act in which Canadians no longer had confidence. We have restored the protection in the Navigable Waters Act, and Canadians can be very proud of the fact that we are looking after their interests with respect to navigation.
Honourable Member for Edmonton Strathcona.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberals promised to actually strengthen the environmental assessment process gutted by the Conservatives, yet still in place. They promised to remove political considerations from assessments and base decisions on project approvals on scientific evidence. Yet C-69 retains the government's ability to disregard scientific evidence, traditional knowledge, identifying adverse impacts, health risks, and community concerns, and still deem the project to be in the public interest. How can the Minister of Environment defend this bill as a strengthened law?
The Minister of Environment.
Mr. Speaker, I am thrilled to defend the new Environmental Assessment Act that we're proposing. I'm certainly interested in hearing any proposed changes that may come from the other side that can make it stronger. But we believe we've got it spot on. That we understand we need to make decisions based on science and traditional knowledge. That we need to be respecting rights with Indigenous peoples and partnering from the start. That we need to be listening to communities. And we need good projects to go ahead. On one hand, we have a party that doesn't understand that we need to make sure we protect the environment. We have another party that doesn't understand that good projects need to go ahead. That is where we...
The Honourable Member for Rosemont-la-Petite-Patrie. After dragging their feet for 2 years, the Liberals are proposing a new environmental assessment process, but there are some very nasty surprises in it. Timelines for studies are even shorter than under the Conservatives, and the minister isn't even bound by the recommendations of the assessment. Even if people are against it, even if science says that it's a bad project, the minister can still approve it. Is this nebulous concept of national interest just a sneaky way for the Liberals to approve whatever they want, regardless of citizens' desires and science and the Indigenous people's desires? We took 2 years to listen to Canadians. We listened to Indigenous peoples. We listened to scientists. We listened to industry. We listened to environmentalists. And we know that we have a good process. We will make decisions that are science-based, and we will form partnerships with Indigenous peoples. We will listen to communities, and this is how we will make decisions. We know that the economy and the environment go together, and we will always be there to protect both. The Honourable Member for Ottawa-Vanier. Mr. Speaker, the results are clear. Our plan is working. It's helping Canadians create jobs and grow our economy. But there's still work to be done.
Over 500,000 jobs have been created since this government came to office, and Canada is leading in the G7 in growth. Canadians are feeling more confident about their future. Can the Minister of Finance please update this House on the next steps we are taking to strengthen Canada's middle class and help those working hard to join it?
Minister of Finance.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'd like to thank my colleague. Over the last couple of years, the plan we've put in place for Canadians has made real improvements for middle-class Canadians.
Order. Usually I can at least hear the question. This time it's hard to hear both. I'd ask members to come to order. The Honourable Minister of Finance has the floor. Order.
We've seen real improvements over the last couple of years for middle-class Canadians, more confidence, and among the lowest unemployment rates in the last 40 years. But there's more work to do, Mr. Speaker. On February 27th, we're going to announce the next budget to continue our plan to give every
The Honourable Member for Mégantic-L'Érable. Mr. Speaker, today we should be celebrating Canada's Agriculture Day. This is a day to celebrate our farmers all across the country. Farmers and their families are working hard to feed their communities, our country, and the world. Unfortunately, agriculture doesn't seem to be a priority for this government. The Minister of Finance called them tax cheats. The Minister of Agriculture doesn't participate in international trade negotiations. The Health Minister doesn't want to hear from farmers when it comes to the new food guide. Will the Liberal government finally do the honourable thing and listen to farmers about what they have to say about their own future?
Agriculture.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Sure, my honourable colleague, we have been listening to farmers and we have responded to farmers. In fact, we invested $100 million in agricultural science. That's much better than cutting some money in agricultural science. Innovations fund of $1.1 billion available to agriculture. We have agreed with the provinces and territories to put a Canadian Agricultural Partnership in place. $3 billion for the agriculture and agri-food sector. And that goes on. In order to increase trade, we approved CETA. And we have agreed to CPTP.
The Honourable Member for Mégantic-L'Érable. Well, let's talk about the TPP and all those other letters, Mr. Speaker. Canadian producers are increasingly concerned.
2 weeks after an announcement about the TPP, we've heard absolutely nothing about compensation programs. 80% of dairy farmers won't have access to the program that was improvised by the Minister of Agriculture, and there's nothing for egg and poultry producers. The Conservative government had set aside $4 billion, but the Liberals have no plan. How will the Minister of Agriculture ensure that no new concessions are made to the Americans as part of the NAFTA negotiations?
Secretary for Canada-U.S. Relations.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We've been clear. We will always defend supply management. Unlike some members of the official opposition, everyone else in this House believes in supply management. Our position on this issue is clear. We've always defended this system, including during NAFTA negotiations, and we will always do so. Thank you.
Today is Canadian Agriculture Day. It's a day where across Canada we celebrate our producers and we thank them for all they do. But our farmers and ranchers aren't celebrating because the Liberals have shut them out of the discussion on the Canada Food Guide. Our producers give their heart and soul into producing quality food for Canadians. But it's these folks who will be directly impacted by these ill-advised decisions. In the spirit of this important day, will the Liberals reverse this ideological decision? Will they listen to the agriculture sector and health experts to ensure that we have a balanced approach to the Canadian Food Guide?
Honourable Minister of Health.
Speaker, our government is committed to protect the health of Canadians and supporting an environment that makes the healthy choice the easy choice. For over the past 70 years, Canada's Food Guide has been one of the most trusted sources of information for Canadians. As a part of the Healthy Eating Strategy, work to date on the Canada Food Guide is well underway, and we are engaging with Canadians, experts, and stakeholders. I was pleased to meet with the dairy industry yesterday, and they are going to be appearing as witnesses at the Health Committee in a very timely manner. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Foothills.
Mr. Speaker, the Trans-Pacific Partnership is a vital agreement. It will give our agriculture and agribusiness exporters unprecedented market access to high-value markets like Japan, Vietnam, and Malaysia. It will also give us a competitive advantage over the United States. But there is very real concern that Canada could miss out on these vital new markets if we are not one of the first members to ratify the agreement. On Canadian Agriculture Day, can the Liberals assure our agriculture and agri-food exporters that the TPP, they will sign the TPP later next month, and they will ratify it next summer?
The Honourable Minister of International Trade.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank the member for this very important question. As he said, this is a good agreement on Agricultural Day. I think we should all celebrate in this House that this is going to be good for our nation across the country, Mr. Speaker. We will be signing, thanks to the Prime Minister, we will be signing the CPTPP in March, and we will proceed with ratification. But, Mr. Speaker, let me say again what this entails to Canadians. We've opened up a market of more than 500 million people and 14% of the world economy. This is a great day for agriculture. This is a great day for Canada. And thanks to this Prime Minister, we will have our position in Asia-Pacific.
The Honourable Member for Laurier-Sainte-Marie. Mr. Speaker, the war of words between the U.S. and North Korea and growing tensions with Russia have pushed the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists to set the doomsday clock to 2 minutes to midnight. It's clear that the world would be safer without nuclear arms, and Canada should help use diplomacy to that end. So will the Prime Minister commit to have Canada sign the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons, which over 120 other countries have already approved? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Foreign Affairs. Canada strongly supports nuclear disarmament internationally, and we will continue to support efforts to that end. We recently announced $1.5 million more to support the International Atomic Energy Company in its work. We are fully committed to making concrete progress towards a nuclear arms-free world, and this includes treaties. That is Canada's firm position.
I'm out Saanich Soup.
Mr. Speaker, Canada has traditionally been a leader on the world stage on nuclear disarmament at the same time as being an active member of NATO. Since a core tenet of NATO is to create the conditions for a world free of nuclear weapons, there's clearly no obstacle to Canada signing the Nuclear Prohibition Treaty. So will the Prime Minister now take bold action, sign the Nuclear Prohibition Treaty, and then instruct our NATO ambassador to start working to get all of our NATO allies behind this treaty so Canada can help the world move back from the brink of nuclear disaster?
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, Canada unequivocally supports global nuclear disarmament. We continue to support efforts that substantially contribute to this goal. We recently announced an additional $1.5 million for the International Atomic Energy Agency to support its important work on non-proliferation. We are committed to work that will make and take concrete steps towards a nuclear-free world. This includes the important work that Canada is doing on a treaty that will help to halt the production of material for nuclear weapons. Canada has and remains an important player in the global nuclear disarmament movement. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Lévis-Lotbinière. Mr. Speaker, the newest version of the Canada Food Guide, made by the Liberals, seems to be based more on ideology than on science. Their refusal to consult agriculture partners has concerning implications for the future of our food guide. Mr. Speaker, will the government abandon its misguided approach and finally start broader consultations on the food guide with all stakeholders, including agriculture stakeholders, for the good of all Canadians? Honourable Minister of Health. Mr. Speaker, yesterday I had the pleasure of meeting with members of the dairy industry. We're committed to protecting the health of Canadians and helping Canadians make good choices. Canada's Food Guide has been a very trusted source of information about nutrition for Canadians for 70 years. And work concerning the Food Guide is underway, and we are consulting with Canadians and experts and many stakeholders. Health Canada is committed to using the best data available in its decision-making process.
Red Deer, Mountain View.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister will soon be meeting with officials in India to hopefully discuss trade between sulfies and photo ops. Recent changes to India's import policies resulted in debilitating tariffs on Canadian pulse exports, putting critical trade agreements and market access in serious jeopardy. With pulse exports to India worth over $1.5 billion, it's critical for Canada to work on a clear agreement. Will the Prime Minister include the Agriculture Minister on this important trade mission?
The Honourable Minister of Agriculture.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and we're extremely concerned and disappointed with India increase in import duties without any advance notice to Canada or any other nation. We are raising our concerns for the government of India, including a recent trade mission by the Minister of Trade, who brought it up at every occasion. And this week I was in Saskatchewan meeting with the pulse farmers and announced the funding for market development. What we want to do is create more markets for the pulse industry in this country, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Provencher.
Mr. Speaker, agriculture, especially in my province of Manitoba, is an integral part of the community. We are all very proud of our agriculture contributions to Canada and beyond. Products like Bothwell cheese and High Life pork are world-class products with excellent nutritional value. But the Liberal government seems to disagree. The new Canadian Food Guide is an attack on meat and dairy producers. Why have the Liberals chosen to downplay the vital role of meat and dairy products in the diets of Canadians? Why this attack on science?
The Honourable Minister of Health.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, yesterday I had the privilege of meeting the dairy industry of Canada and had a very productive meeting.
Our government is determined to protect the health of Canadians and to support a health environment that allows them to make easy choices. Canada's Food Guide has been a very reliable source of nutrition information for Canadians for 70 years. As part of our health and eating strategy, the update of the Canada Food Guide is underway, and we are consulting with Canadians and experts. Health Canada is committed to using the best data possible in its decision-making process. Thank you. The Honourable Member for Bourassa. Mr. Speaker, 1 year ago, the NGO Engineers Without Borders published a survey of young Canadians showing that they want Canada to take action on international development. It suggested that responding to humanitarian crises and natural disasters, ensuring access to healthcare for women and children, and promoting gender equality should be policy priorities for Canada. Can the Minister of International Development tell this House how Canada intends to implement this vision? The Honourable Minister of International Development. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I thank my colleague for Bourassa for his question and for his interest in international development and youth. Our government wants to give Canadians an international experience that will help enrich them both professionally and personally. That's why I recently announced that we've provided $34 million to provide internships to over 1,800 young Canadians in developing countries. I had such an experience in Morocco, and I encourage all Canadians to submit an application.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister and the Liberals have broken their trust with veterans. Brian Forbes, Chairman of the National Council of the Veterans Associations, had this to say about the Liberal promises, quote, "It's fair to say the disappointment with the new plan has been immense because it just didn't do the trick. If you're going to make a promise to provide lifetime pensions, then do it." End of quote. Despite the Liberals' rhetoric, veterans consider the promises made to them to be broken. Why is the Prime Minister the only one convinced that they've kept their promises to veterans?
The Honourable Minister of Veterans Affairs.
Speaker, an increased pain and suffering award, an increased income replacement, increased estate exemption for veterans' funerals and burials, an education benefit of up to $80,000, redesigned career transition, a recognition benefit for caregivers, a Center for Excellence for PTSD, 460 more staff, 10 offices, a pension for life. For everything that Conservatives took away that I listed yesterday, we are delivering on real benefits and services. Veterans deserve more than words.
Honourable Member for Desmethy, Churchill River.
Yesterday, the government gave vague answers on what their plan was in the aftermath of the trial over Colton Boushie's killing. We must address the underrepresentation of Indigenous peoples on juries and judicial benches. This situation is a crisis of trust, and the jury trial in the case of Colton Boushie increases mistrust of the justice system for Indigenous peoples. So I will repeat. What is the government's specific plan to ensure the Indigenous peoples are treated fairly by our justice system?
The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. And again, I thank the honourable member across the way for her very important question. We have been working diligently since we came into government, building on the work that has occurred over decades, advocated by Indigenous peoples and the like, to ultimately improve our criminal justice system. We are proposing, or will propose, broad-based reform to the criminal justice system. And we have, as I stated yesterday, committed to looking at the underrepresentation of Indigenous peoples on juries. We are moving forward with that. We will listen to all the voices with respect to that particular issue and move forward in an appropriate way. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Miramichi Grand Lake.
Canada's Agriculture Day, a day to celebrate the food we love and showcase our world-class farmers, ranchers, and growers from coast to coast to coast, of which I am one myself, Mr. Speaker. Canadian agriculture is stronger, more innovative, diverse than ever, and our government is committed to continuing this growth and investing in the future of Canadian farmers. Can the Minister of Agriculture tell us about today's announcement to build a strong future for Canadian agriculture? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I want to thank my honourable member from Miramichi Grand Lake for all his hard work for our farmers and ranchers across this country. Today I am celebrating Canada Day by launching 6 federal programs under the Canadian Agricultural Partnership. The partnership will drive a strong agenda for the future of Canadian agriculture. These investments will ensure Canadian agriculture remains a leader in job creation and innovation, and will make sure that we reach our target of $75 billion of agriculture and agri-food exports by 2025. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Beauport de Beaupré, Île-d'Orléans, Charlevoix. The government keeps saying that it's defending the interests of the middle class, but in reality, they chum around with their wealthy friends who continue getting richer while the poorest among us pay for the government's reckless spending. And now they've given their rich friends access to new tax havens in Grenada and Antigua and Barbuda. When will this government really be transparent with taxpayers and start working to defend their interests, instead of signing tax agreements with countries that are known tax havens? The Honourable Minister of National Revenue. Mr. Speaker, let me be clear. The fight against tax evasion is a priority for our government. We are working very closely with our partners abroad because this is a worldwide problem and there is no simple solution. We have adopted international standards for information sharing with our OECD partners, and starting this year, we will have access to even more information from our partners. And I'd like to remind my colleague across the way that under their government, their former minister, Mr. Blackburn, said that this wasn't even a priority. The Honourable Member for Joliette. Yes, Mr. Speaker, I don't think it was a priority for Paul Martin either. The Minister of Revenue has a lot of nice words, and she says that the government is fighting tax evasion. But the truth is, Mr. Speaker, that when it comes to fighting tax havens internationally, Canada is part of the problem, not the solution. While the OECD Convention allows for information sharing, Canada is signing an agreement with a country where people don't even file tax returns. What are the Liberals waiting for? Why won't they abandon these agreements with Grenada and Antigua and Barbuda? The Honourable Minister of National Revenue. Mr. Speaker, our government is firmly committed to fighting tax evasion and avoidance. That's why our government invested nearly $1 billion over the last 2 budgets, Mr. Speaker. The agency is now able to evaluate risks for all big multinationals every year. And every year, it looks at all transactions over $10,000 in 4 jurisdictions which are deemed high risk. The first ones were the Isle of Man and Guernsey Island. As concerns international transactions, as of December 31st, the agency carried out audits of over 1,000 taxpayers. The Honourable Member for Joliette. Yeah, so let's talk about tax evasion. Canadian investments in Barbados, $68 billion. In the Cayman Islands, $48 billion. In Bermuda, $39 billion. In the Bahamas, $20 billion. Ordinary taxpayers are paying their taxes, but the government is making life even easier for wealthy people who are hiding their money in tax havens. Rather than going after the little fish who are already doing their part, when will the government go after these financial sharks? The Honourable Minister of National Revenue. Mr. Speaker, tax evasion and avoidance is a priority for our government. We've invested nearly $1 billion over the last 2 budgets. Unlike our colleagues across the way, whose objective in life is apparently to ask 2 questions in question period and then to languish in the opposition. On our side, we are going to work for Canadians and Quebecers, and tax evasion is a priority, and we will continue to work against it, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Government House Leader is rising on a point of order.
Yes, on a point of order, Mr. Speaker, there have been discussions amongst the parties, and I suspect if you were to canvass, you would find unanimous support for the following: that notwithstanding any standing order or usual practice of the House, any recorded division in respect of an item of private member's business deferred to Wednesday, February the 14th, 2018, immediately before the time provided for private member's business pursuant to Standing Order 93(1) or 98(4) shall be deemed deferred anew until Wednesday, February 14, 2018, at the expiry of the time provided for oral questions.
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary, have the unanimous consent of the House to propose the motion? Agreed. The House has heard the terms of the motion. Is it the pleasure of the House to adopt the motion? No. I hear no's. I hear a no. So perhaps members could have some discussions about that. The Honourable Member for Cowichan Malahat Langford is rising on a point of order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise on a point of order today because I'm a charitable person, and I want to give the Liberal government one more chance to honour a promise and look after our produce farmers. So, Mr.